I too high?
It doesn't matter. I'm
Okay.
being completely honest. We
I feel
probably
like a
won't
kid
use
on
any
a
of
tall
this.
toilet that's like kicking my legs.
Step into the light, let's take a look around. Got the keys to your dreams, let's break it down from the roof to the floor. This house has a story. Real estate secrets, let's uncover the truth. Element inspection would guide you move to element inspection. We'll show you the way to find your perfect home. Come join us today.
All right, guys, I'm here with Blake Tinkle. This one's going to be a little bit more casual than usual. Blake and I are friends. We've already done this once before.
We have.
We're going to do a little bit different. Blake's actually going to ask me a few questions about home inspections.
I am.
I probably should have gotten you some prompts or some deep dive questions, but
I'm gonna wing it.
okay, shoot. What do you
All
got?
right.
What do you want to know, and how could I best ease the nerves of your clients with this information?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think anytime, especially a first-time home buyer, because I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, they're going to get this novel of things marked deficient
Yep.
or, unknown or not to code, this kind of thing. And really, an inspector's job, they're getting in there and they're checking everything as if the home was built yesterday. Not
Yep.
every home was built yesterday. What would be your best advice to somebody that is getting an inspection report for the first time and they're thinking, oh my God, there's 70 pages of things that are wrong with this home? What would you say to that
There's
person?
two main things they really need to understand. Number one, any house built yesterday has deficiencies. There's no such thing as grandfathered in. We're in 2025 currently. Any house built in 2024 has deficiencies because my inspectors don't inspect to the year the house was built. They inspect to Texas Real Estate Commission's rules, which are up to date. So anything that's changed from 24 to 25 will be deficient.
That becomes a new standard.
That's the new standard. That doesn't mean the house is going to burn down. That just means it is not up to the most current code. So the older the house, the more deficiencies it's going to have. Doesn't necessarily mean the house is unlivable or inherently dangerous. It just means we've made improvements over time and we're going to let you know what is not up to date. Yeah, so it's not necessarily something you need to be alarmed about. And the things that you do need to be alarmed about, we're going to bring to your attention. We're going to put on the red section of ours. Mm-hmm. And that brings up the next point. Texas Real Estate Commission's, it's REI 6.7, I think we're on now. Okay. That is the code for the form that we must fill out. And that's the 70-page document you're speaking of. There's no hierarchy, meaning I can put a $20,000 problem one line item below a $10,000 problem, and there's no hierarchy saying this is a big problem, this is a small problem. In the eyes of Texas Real Estate Commission, a sin is a sin. They're all equal. So anything that's deficient is just deficient. It doesn't matter how big of an issue it is. It's simply deficient. So it's kind of your job as the agent to walk them through and say, he tagged the roof, the entirety of the roof, and it looks like we need to replace it. In the same column, we might say, the kick-out flashing for the gutters is not quite right. That might be a $20 fix, but the roof might be a $30,000 roof.
Yeah.
But they're in the same category.
Yeah, because they're all falling under that roofing.
They're all in the roofing category, and there's no
Yeah.
hierarchy. We have a separate document that we give you guys, which includes the hierarchy, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So we list out each one, blue, yellow, red. Blue, we know you're probably not going to fix it, but we have to write it down. Yellow, fix it in the first year, and red, fix it before you move in.
Got it.
So we try and give you that hierarchy, but by law, Texas law, we have to give you the non-hierarchy one. And it's kind of your job to explain to them. 70-page document is scary, but
Right.
here's why it's not really that scary.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's all about kind of prepping and setting expectations going into. I always get them on a call before we go to an inspection.
Yeah.
Like, hey, there's going to be a lot, but we're going to focus on what's most important, and don't be afraid to ask the inspector questions. Right. Something I always like to ask every inspector is, what is most important to you on this inspection report, or if this were your home, what stands out the most? Just because they're seeing this stuff day in and day out. So
we've kind of drilled into our guys' heads safety first.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's an unsafe fire situation, the chimney will likely not contain the fire.
Yeah.
We're going to bring that up and really hone in on it. If there's an issue with the fire alarms, a lot of it has to do with fire, quite honestly. But electrical,
Really?
yeah. Homes built in North America burn more than any other homes in the entire world.
That's comforting.
Yes. Yeah. Like 40% higher rate of burned homes than anywhere else in the world. We use a lot of wood. Most countries use concrete.
Touche.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So and that's based on the fact that we have an abundance of trees in North America, where most places have an abundance of sand and rock. It makes sense why we do it.
Yeah.
But
it balances out.
But it's still kindling. So.
It still feeds a fire.
Yeah, exactly. But those
Got
are the
it.
things we focus on are the safety risks, and then that's where we might get a little scary, if you will. But
Mhm.
then we bring it down to everything is fixable.
Yeah. And then it's up to essentially them and their agent to determine what they might want to ask for beyond that, and really, negotiating the needed repairs and addressing the safety concerns, things like that.
Exactly.
Right. Got it. No, it's great sage advice. And I know too, with an inspection, you're not there representing the seller, you're not there representing the agents. You are working for the buyer and giving them all the information that they need regarding that home to make an educated decision.
Thank you for knowing that. Yes, most agents. If the client calls us and books an inspection and says, "Don't share this information with my agent," I don't think that's intelligent on the buyer's part, but we have to abide by that because you didn't pay for it, your client paid for it, and we work
Right.
for the client.
It's their
We don't-
report.
Right. We don't work for anybody else. But there's that confusion because you and I have a relationship, and you call me up and you're like, "What did this report say?" And I have to sometimes say, "I can't tell you."
Mm-hmm.
It's the client owns the report.
Yeah.
Which gets awkward in some situations, but that is the reality of it. Even though you and I work together every day, and this client I might only work with one time,
Yeah.
it truly is the client that we're working for, not the real estate agent. And a lot of agents don't quite grasp that until the first time it happens to them.
Or you get I'm sure you run into an agent on an inspection that's like, yeah, but this is not a big deal, right? Like those leading questions.
That's, yeah, because I have noticed agents that are very successful will actually say, "No, this is a big deal." And agents that are maybe not as successful or green, they
Mhm.
really need that sale literally to put food on their table. And so
Mhm.
there's this weird conflict where they're like, "I got to get a sale because I'm going broke,"
Yeah.
because they're newer agents and they don't have any cash.
It's coming from a scarcity mindset.
Right, and so they're like, "I got to sell this house. I got to get this deal closed because I need money." And so they're going to downplay everything.
Yeah.
And then we get in a very awkward situation where we're like, well, actually, they really need to look at this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we never say buy the house, don't buy the house. But if
Yeah.
we list out 25 major problems, it's pretty self-evident not to buy the home or
Yeah.
to get 150 grand off the house. Well, pick one, right?
Yeah.
But there's the agents that don't. They need the sale so bad. They kind of get us in a little bit of ethical conundrum. Because
Yeah.
they're pushing their client to buy it, and we're like,
Well, and that's on the agent too. I mean, when you're coming from a place of scarcity, it makes it really hard to serve your client because your own interests are getting in the way. And I think, like you said, with the agents that are really successful versus the newer agents, an agent that's really successful is going to know that there's no decision that rests with them.
Right.
It is all the client. And it's not about them, it is about the client.
And over time, those agents become very, very popular and very successful because they're the most ethical. And let's be honest, it's the single largest purchase of the majority of people's ever in their life they're going to make. So they
Yeah.
want someone that's ethical and honest to walk them through the process.
Yeah.
And then if you are, you become quite popular and you sell a lot of houses. If you're
Everybody
not,
likes a straight shooter.
yeah. If you're not and you're pushing people to buy houses that are pretty crappy, you're not going to last long. But
That's true.
unfortunately, we do about 2,000 inspections a year, and we need as many as we can, obviously, because we're a volume-based business. So we come
Mhm.
across quite a few agents that are just not going to make it, but we do have to deal with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes
So
sense.
I always appreciate when I see your name on the list, I'm like, this will be easy. Because I know you've informed your client of what an inspection is. I know you're not going to push any hot buttons, and I know because you're in a position where if you don't sell this house, fine, we'll move on to the next one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you might even say,
Well, it's better that relationship is more important than if you put them in a home that is not a good fit for them, or you don't truly understand their needs. That's not a relationship where they're going to keep coming back, or they're going to send friends that,
Yeah.
hey, he did a great job. They're going to be like, man, it seemed like he just wanted to get the deal done and then disappeared after the closing
no,
table.
it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
How are the new builds treating you, by the way?
Oh, so far so good. There's actually a development in Midlothian that I've done a couple in that I got you guys' help on inspecting. The nice thing about new builds, at least that I've found, is you get to have a great inspector come in, give you that inspection report, and what's nice is that you get to kind of just hand it over to the builder and say, here's the punch list.
Yeah.
There's a little less, as my wife would say, strategery involved.
Yes.
Because it's like, hey, these are issues. We want to make sure that they're all addressed. There's not as much strategy involved, like, hey, are we more likely to get this, or are we more likely to get this than you would with a seller they're trying to make top dollar and essentially do as little as they can to be able to close the deal and move on down the road.
Yeah, the new builds they're great and they're terrible all in one. I mean,
Yeah.
you see it on the phase inspections. You're like,
Yeah.
how can there be this many things wrong with a brand new house?
Yeah, it's like, where was the supervision during each of these
Non-existent.
steps? Yeah.
Non-existent. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's almost like I get so frustrated at the quality of homes, especially the new builds in our area.
Yeah.
Because we go look at houses built in the 40s, and we're so impressed with the build quality and the time and attention paid to the building process. And we're like, this house is great. Like,
Yeah.
there's some electrical stuff that's out of date, obviously, but this house is awesome. And then we get on a brand new house. We're like, it's their toolbox. It must be filled with crayons. I don't know what else they're showing up
A
to work
strong
with.
wind gust and it's coming over.
Literally.
The cue dad saying they don't build them like that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're not impressed with the new builds, but
That's fair. If you had your choice of your favorite kind of inspection, what would that look like? Would that be a new build? Would that be pre-owned? Or I guess what's fulfilling? Is it going in and being like, oh man, I found all this stuff? Or is it, oh, this is a great home that was built well?
that's interesting. The new builds, and so just from a financial side, just rolling through as many as possible, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very boring. The older homes, like really old 100-year-old homes, are
Mhm.
always the most fun to go through, because you get to see how they built things, and then you also get to find 100 years of people working on a house,
Yeah.
and just seeing what someone did in the 50s with their family to change it to meet their needs, and then what someone did in the 80s to meet their needs.
Yeah.
And so you get these decades and decades of stories, which is really cool to see.
That's
Because you get to kind of dissect the home and see what's under the surface.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably, it sounds like there's some moments of, what was their thinking
Oh, yes.
here?
Oh, yes.
Or, I didn't think of that way to solve that.
Yeah, there's definitely that. There's definitely some, I think there's an Instagram or a meme going around. It's a guy looking at looking at an electrical panel, and you hear the woman in the background yell, "My son did the electrical in here," and the guy goes, "Yeah, when did his house burn down?" And she goes, "Oh, it burned. Wait, how'd you know it burned down?" It's like,
I've seen that.
I'm looking at the electrical panel. I just took a wild guess. So we come across some stuff like that where we're like, "Wow,
Really, how's this house still standing?
Yeah.
How often would you say you run into something like that?
not that often. Maybe one in every 50 inspections."
Okay. That's comforting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. Now, we're at a point, because a cast iron up until I think about the mid-50s was Schedule 80, which is a much, much thicker cast iron.
Okay.
Then they switched to Schedule 40, which was half the wall thickness. So we sometimes put our sewer camera in pipes that are literally 80 years old, and they're fine. Then, so we're in this period where there was a huge boom in the 70s in Dallas for building.
Mm-hmm.
That's 50 some odd years ago, 45 to 50 years ago, depending on when it was built. Meaning, 'Cause cast iron has a 50-year life cycle, typically 50 years. So meaning
Yeah,
every
so we're
time,
technically close to the end of that life cycle.
yeah, and we put the camera down in the drain system, and it's collapsed, or it's about to collapse, or it's completely failed and disconnected, and a lot of agents are not educated on the fact that if you're replacing a cast iron sewer system underneath a slab foundation, your client can be looking at $30,000.
Geez, they're going in through the floor
Mm-hmm.
to do that.
Or
You gotta-
they're either tunneling underneath the house or they're trenching through the foundation. One of the two to fix it, because the pipes.
neither of which are cheap.
No, no. It's more often 10 to 30,000 is pretty average. Because you got to think about it. Let's say this is my home here, and there's a kitchen island right here,
Mm-hmm.
right, and the sink is there. Someone has to tunnel underneath the house all the way to that, grab that old cast iron, pull it all out, rerun PVC. So you have a man-sized hole, 3 feet by 3 feet, tunnel all the way underneath the house.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's got to dig that out. And
Yeah.
then they got to pack it back tight enough to not disrupt the foundation.
So yeah, so that it doesn't all of a sudden
Just
have
start, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and many people just don't grasp the magnitude of that problem. And so I would say on a 2 out of 10 sewer camera, maybe even 3 out of 10 sewer camera inspections we do, we're recommending that a plumber come out because we believe the system, at least part of the system, needs to be replaced, if not the whole thing.
Mm.
And in those instances, yeah, it's your job to go to negotiations and say, we just got an estimate from a plumber for $18,000
Yeah.
because this system is completely compromised. But your client paid me $200 to do the sewer inspection. And so it blows my mind when we tell people, you might be facing $30,000 worth of problems, and we're giving you a $200 insurance policy on that.
Yeah.
Why would you not go with that? And a lot of people don't. But
And something I always ask my clients, and we gauge it based on the age of the home and everything, as well as like, hey, if it was pre 1985, like we want to check on those poop pipes.
oh yeah,
And something I always ask them when they're thinking about cutting corners on the inspection is, what dollar amount is your peace of mind worth? And kind of leave them with that.
Yeah.
It's like, man, if there's any doubt in your mind, let's spend the money now so we know, instead of rolling the dice with potentially a $30,000 repair.
it's big. And yeah, then you get the ammunition to go to the negotiation table
Mm-hmm.
and work for your client.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
it's a whole lot harder to argue with an inspection report. Once they know about it, they've got to disclose it.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. What else you got for me? What are you just
I'd like to
dying
take a
ask?
different angle, and Lewis, looking at it, because you guys are most of the time short of like maybe a pre-listing inspection, which we'll put that over here for a second because that gives me some ideas. As a seller, what advice would you give a seller who is thinking about selling their home? They're not sure what's going to come up, right? Maybe they're not the first owner. They're a little bit nervous about. It's like if you're driving somebody else's car and a cop has to search it. Like you don't know what's in there. You're rolling the dice. What would your advice be to a seller that's thinking about selling their home, but they're like, man, I'm terrified about a buyer doing an inspection on this home because it's been great to us.
There's 2 schools of thought. We don't need to get into the ethics of it. That's for each individual person. But
Mhm.
basically, whatever I find on the inspection report, or I put on the inspection report after the inspection, it's the seller's obligation to list that in the seller's disclosure. So
That's so long as they're aware of it, because like we said, the buyer owns the report. So
Yes.
it's only what the buyer is okay sharing.
right. But on the selling side, when that buyer gives you the contract and said, now fill out the seller's disclosure,
Mhm.
everything that you're aware of that's wrong with this house, you got to list.
Right.
If as a seller, if I've received a document that shows everything wrong with the house because I bought an inspection, then it's
Mhm.
my ethical duty to fill out that seller's disclosure with every detail that's wrong with the home.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the person's ethics are, some of them get the inspection report and say, I'm going to fix 5 or 6 items on it, and then I'm going to throw everything away and never act like I ever got anything done.
Gotcha.
It's an option. But you have to know it's out there. Like, that report is out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
it exists.
It exists.
Yeah.
Right, so somehow, some way it comes up and you got an inspection report and you found a lot of stuff wrong with your house and you tried to cover some things up to sell it. Obviously, ethically, that's not okay.
Right.
And so you have to face that fact. So if you're an anal retentive person that keeps your house really up to date, get the inspection report and just slap it on the table when people are walking through the house and be like, look how clean my house is.
Yeah.
Right?
You
Like
wear
an
it as a
open
badge of
house, be
honor.
passing out the inspection reports.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've never done a single thing with the maintenance on it, it might not be in your best interest to get an inspection report.
Yeah.
So it's that the ethics that goes along with getting the inspection done. Now, if you're someone that has a little bit of cash and wants to fix the things and wants a sale that's going to be quick, yeah, get an inspection report, fix a bunch of the major issues, say, here are all the issues we didn't fix, but we fixed the big things. The house is as is.
Yeah.
And some people do that and it works really well.
And would you say, and when you're saying inspection, is that like the pre-listing inspection?
Yeah, a lot of
So-
people ask me about that, getting the pre-listing inspection.
Yeah, what would be your answer to someone if they're debating whether or not they want to get a pre-listing inspection before they go live?
Exactly that. Like, are you going to fix the things that we find? If you're not, you got to list them still, and then you list all the things that are wrong with your house, and your house doesn't look that great.
Yeah, then all of a sudden you made, somebody wanting to make an offer now that they know about stuff. So what I'm hearing is that it's beneficial so long as you're willing to take the action.
If you're willing to take the action and fix the pipes and fix the roof and whatever else we find, I think it makes for a faster sale. Easier sale, for sure.
Because you've already anticipated, you
The
already
big
know
hits,
the
yep.
big things that could come up. So it's
Yep.
like, hey, we've already addressed that.
We've addressed the big ones, and what I've seen often is people get a pre-listing, they fix the big things, and they say, listen, there's another like $2,000 or $3,000 worth of little stuff on here. You got to take that when you buy the house. We're not touching it because we fixed the $10,000 item already.
We've done our homework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that a few times, and it actually makes for a pretty quick sale, and so all the agents are pretty happy, and everyone seems to just flows
Yeah.
easier. It's when people are hiding things, and then the inspector starts finding things, then it kind of brings into question how much more is wrong with this house, and they start calling out experts.
Yeah. Well, and that's something when I'm walking a house with a seller and they're like, oh, what should I fix? And my big thing is let's avoid any and all question marks. If it begs more questions, we want people walking in and focus on what they like, not reasons for it not to be worth the price that you're asking.
Yeah.
Like let's address the question marks so that way they walk in and they're not asking any questions.
Step into the light, let's take a look around. Got the keys to your dreams, let's break it down from the roof to the floor. This house has a story. Real estate secrets, let's uncover the truth. Element inspection would guide you move to element inspection. We'll show you the way to find your perfect home. Come join us today.